Muy bien, chicos, vamos a empezar ahora el último capítulo 12. El primer tema de gramática es la voz pasiva y estamos en la página 340. Bien, la voz pasiva. Both English and Spanish, both in English and Spanish, the majority of sentences are in active voice. The subject does an action that affects someone or something. So the regular version of most of the sentences is subject, verb, and object. Los presidentes firmaron un acuerdo. The subject goes first, normally. The presidents sign an agreement. But here, dice, however, there are situations in which we want to emphasize the action and its results and remove the focus from who performed the action. In those cases, what would be the direct object in a sentence in the active voice plays the role of subject. That is, it triggers the agreement with the verb. The actual agent or doer of the action may or may not appear after the verb, and it is introduced by the preposition por. For example, here, aquí tenemos, the first version is los presidentes firmaron un acuerdo. If we want to emphasize the object, to get rid of the focus on the subject, we're going to move the direct object to the first place here. So at the beginning of the sentence, el acuerdo now is the subject. El acuerdo, we're going to use the verb to be, in past tense in this case, fue, firmado, hado and ido, or the past participle, that period. Or if you want to include also whoever used to be the subject, now is the object, por los presidentes, by the presidents. Bien? So that's how we do. This is the passive voice. This is the active voice, and this is the passive voice. When we switch the order of the words here, the object becomes the subject. Bien? Acá tenemos, dice, although both sentences have the same meaning, each puts emphasis on a different part of the message. The first one on the presidents as signers, and the latter on that treaty being signed. So the focus on the second one is the agreement. The agreement or el acuerdo is the focus because it's first. That's the idea when we use the passive voice, either in English or Spanish. Was signed, fue firmado. It's the same idea. Bien, vamos a ver aquí. Formas. Similar to English, the passive voice is formed by the conjugated form of ser, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, followed by the past participle of another verb, which behaves as an adjective. That is, it agrees in number and gender with the subject. The passive voice can occur with the tense and mood, with any tense and mood, as needed by the context. So you can use it in present, in past, future, etc. For example, dice, the subject is here. La frontera es cruzada a diario por miles de personas. We have la frontera. Es, in this case, we're using the present tense of the verb to be. Cruzada, pasado participio, crossed. Ada, bien, cruzada, a diario, daily. Por miles de personas. Por, then the agent. Whoever used to be the subject, or in the regular version of the sentence, whoever is the subject becomes now the object. Por miles de personas, using the preposition por. Another example. La conferencia será, future tense in this case, is the verb to be, but in the future. La conferencia será organizada en mayo. You can add por la UE, or you cannot, it's up to you, it's optional. Bien, the conference will be organized in May. Let's take a look at a different mood. For example, here, han sido, the next one, present perfect. Los lazos entre los dos países, the verb to be is still here, but now in present perfect. Han sido fortalecidos, still past participle here. So present perfect and past participle. Yeah. Then we have the por el acuerdo, by the agreement. That ties between both countries have been strengthened, I think, by the agreement. Bien, so we use the verb to be for sure. In the first one, present tense, future, present perfect. We have also hubiera sido and fuera abucheado. The verb to be in different moods and tenses. Yeah, that's the idea. But always, if you see, the past participle needs to be there. Fallecido, sido, respetado, abucheado. How do you remember? The past participle normally ends in ada or ido. Bien, in this case, ado. Okay, that's the past participle. Vamos a ver now when to use the passive voice. Here, the passive voice with ser plus past participle is used less frequently in Spanish than in English. Is restricted to formal and written context in Spanish. The ser plus past participle construction is used when the agent, or the doer of the action is known, even if it's not mentioned. So when we use the passive voice, the doer, normally we don't mention it because it's understood. For example, el tratado de paz fue firmado ayer. We know who signed the treaty. Yeah, we don't have to mention it. El tratado de paz fue firmado ayer. It was signed yesterday. Aquí tenemos alternativas to the passive voice, construction with ser plus past participle. Here, tenemos different options as well. Se construction. This is much more commonly used, whether or not the agent is known. It comes from chapter 4. If you remember 201 last semester, on chapter 4, we studied the construction with se, the impersonal se. For example, the agent is not mentioned in this construction. Se firmó un acuerdo de cooperación entre todos los países durante la cumbre boliviana. A cooperation treaty was signed by all countries during the Bolivian summit. Acá tenemos se firmó, construction with se. Here, you are not using the past participle, we're using just the preterite, se firmó. This is another option, here, alternativas to the passive voice. The idea is the same, but we're not using the past participle. Another example, se invitó a todos los presidentes a la cumbre. All the presidents were invited to the summit. If you see the translation, it's still the passive voice, but in a different way, in a different style, if you want to call it. We use the se construction, then the preterite. Okay? Here, active verb in the third person plural form, another possibility. This construction is also used in English. Hoy anunciaron que los trabajadores y la empresa acordaron iniciar una negociación. Who? We don't mention it. The agent is known. We don't have to mention it. Hoy anunciaron. They announced today the workers and the company agreed to start a negotiation. They, who's they? We don't need to mention it. It's understood. Another possibility, another example. Piden que se fomente la cooperación internacional. They ask that the international cooperation to be promoted. Who? It's understood. Piden que se fomente la cooperación. Fomente who? The population or the politicians. According to the context or wherever these news are published, the population is supposed to know, who is doing this action, who is the doer. Bien, a ver acá, nota lingüística, page 342. Aquí tenemos se variable, resumen de los usos de se. This is a very important chart for you guys to remember when to use se. Verbos reflexivos, reflexive verbs. For example, yo me acosté a las 8, pero Julio no se acostó. For example, María se despierta a las 9. Juan se afeita. Reflexive verbs. Verbos recíprocos, capítulo 2. We need at least 2 people to use the reciprocal. Sorry. Tú y yo nos vemos tanto como se ven José y María. Se ven. José y María see each other. We need 2 people at least to use the reciprocal reflexive. Se. Another, the falso se, capítulo 2. The falso se is when we use the indirect and direct object pronoun. Remember, when you have 2 L's together, the first L becomes se. Here, ¿le diste el libro a Mario? Sí, is supposed to be lo di esta mañana, but because we have el and el, this le becomes se. Okay? This is just a summary, un resumen. Se invariable, which means chapter 6, the se usa en todos los casos, or the impersonal se. Se habla español, Spanish spoken. Se firmó un nuevo tratado, a new contract was signed. Yes, and the accidental se, chapter 4, remember? Chapter 4, last semester, la puerta se abrió. The door opened. Las puertas se abrieron. The doors opened. Esta construcción puede admitir un objeto indirecto. When somebody did or had an accident, or normally has an accident, we include the indirect object pronoun. Se me perdió la cartera. I lost my wallet by accident. Se nos murió el pez. Our goldfish died. Bien. We didn't maybe feed the fish too often. It died accidentally. Bien. This is the summary. And that's it. That's the video for this lecture. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.